अरे बेटा
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's start our video so that we can see each other. Yes, Monica.
Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Nisha, Reena.
Hello.
The esteemed faculty for today, Jhalak.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Requesting everyone to start their video so that we can start the session. Nisha, should we start?
Yeah, I think we can start.
Jhalak?
Yes.
Otherwise, I think then it will not end on time.
Yeah.
Okay. A very good evening. The esteemed faculty for today, CA Jhalak Parikh and CA Kamini. Convener for Women Empowerment Committee, CA Nisha Patel, CA Meera Shah. Coordinator for today's session, CA Heenal Shah, Women Committee members, and my dear participants. Actually, a warm welcome as it is very hot outside, and I am very, very happy and glad that all women participants are making the best use of their time. I know Monica is making her kids comfortable, but still I congratulate each one of you for making this right decision. It's absolutely fine because now everything, right from morning to evening, we will be on our laptops and PC, and it is not possible that our kids will not come. But having kids along with us is a normal tradition accepted by corporates also. So let them also understand कि हम क्या करते हैं, ऐसे ही स्क्रीन पे नहीं बैठे रहते. So it is again a new normal. We are starting with the audit series today. We are glad that we have esteemed faculties across the India who have accepted our invitation and are ready to impart knowledge to you. I've got lovely feedbacks from the GST series, and I've also received a request that we want more sessions on GST. So participants, please discuss in the group what you liked, what you didn't like, which are the sessions you are looking forward to. Don't just keep the group as it is कि Friday, Saturday उसमें discussion होगा. आप लिखो आप क्या चाहते हो branch से आपको कोई session. I have already shared with few people from the participants. They are going to share with me कि क्या क्या GST में आपको करना है. Similarly, you can do for audit. तो उस वे से discussion बढ़ेगा and you will definitely have a very good learning experience. Another announcement which I would like to make is we are starting with kids activity from tomorrow. You will get the flyer today. Everybody knows that our kids are frustrated. They are there with their laptops, TVs. They cannot go outside their home. And of course, we as parents, पूरे दिन तो उनके साथ नहीं रह सकते. So with that objective in mind, we are having kids activities from tomorrow. Tomorrow it is dance and some fitness activities. From Monday, what we have done is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, there will be activities in 2 time slots. morning time slot for kids from 5 to 9 years, an afternoon for kids above 9 years, and activities have been divided into various categories. तो हमारे लिए एक हेडेक कम है. जूम चालू कर दिया फॉर अगर छोटे बच्चे हैं तो, बड़े हैं तो they can manage and they beautifully can spend their time. Various activities are there, and again it is, you can involve your neighbors, friends, family members, जिसको भी करना है, right? It is hardly 100 rupees for the whole series. We'll have for the whole month of May, and if we get overwhelming response, we can do it for June as well for smaller kids. So with this words, I once again welcome you all. Thank you, Jhalak Parikh, for accepting our invitation. And I once again welcome you. I would request now Nisha to take the session ahead. Wish you all again happy learning.
Thank you very much, Anjali, for this wonderful opportunity to introduce our esteemed faculty, Jhalak Parikh. She is a very good friend of mine and a gem of person by heart. So it is really an honor to introduce her. Jhalak, she is BCom, FCA, DISA, CISA, FAFD. So many degrees in her feather. She is partner of UM Jintanwala and Company, and she's basically handling project finance work, audit work, company law matters, and CIT appeals also. She was third rank in Ahmedabad and 8th in Gujarat in board examination in 12th board. She was All India 50th rank in PCC examination. She's All India third rank in DISA examination. She's also writing many articles in CA journals which are coming. She was convener of Women Empowerment Committee of ICI and was very much active in that. This was all about her professional achievement, and she is having this hobbies of reading, dancing, singing, etc. That's great, yeah. Along with all this professional achievements, these type of stuff also, if a person is doing, so it is a complete combo of art and commerce, which we can say. She has also participated in All India Radio as anchor and also completed Bharatnatyam Arangetram, performed Bharatnatyam in National Dance Festival and obtained degree of Madhyam Purna in classical music. We are really honored, Jhalak, to have you in between us. A very warm welcome to you. And I would request you to please carry on and enlighten us with your knowledge. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
K.
you,
Nisha.
Nisha. Thank you, Nisha. I'll just add one more thing about Jhalak. She was there with the Women Empowerment Committee from 2016. And you are just there at 2021. She's a very hardworking girl, very grounded. And झलक की impression ऐसी थी हमारे कमिटी में कि झलक को कोई भी काम दो तो ऐसा मतलब she will do it by whole heart और कुछ देखने का ही नहीं होगा. So I would request every one of you that you can just see her कि now she is a faculty at Ahmedabad branch. And of course, I'm sure that she will rock the session, and she's not taking it for the first time. She's doing it since last. So this is of that not only will lead your professional development, but that will groom you as well. So again, thank you, Jhalak, and it's the session is all yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Welcome. I wholeheartedly thank you, Ahmedabad branch and Women Empowerment Committee of Ahmedabad branch for curating this kind of refresher course. I'm seeing this women committee is continuously active in this pandemic situation. They are every day coming up with new things, how to keep women CAs attached to this branch and how to keep them all connected. So hats off to you, everyone who is involved in this and continuously doing hard work to curate this kind of seminars, webinars, etc. So thank you for that. So UFU is a comprehensive refresher course for women chartered accountants. Uh, Today we are starting with a audit series. Before starting my lecture, we are all going through this pandemic and we know the things are very gloomy outside. So before starting my session, I also like to say that day before yesterday, we heard news of the CH Army Doshi's she lost her mother-in-law. We all are listening this kind of news is all coming up all around from us. So I would like to start my session with a Gayatri mantra chanting. So I would request everyone, please do this 3 times chanting. We'll do Gayatri mantra before starting this session. ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति। Just a minute.
Just a minute, I'm making you host, Jhalak. Let me connect with Shehzad bhai just a Shehzad bhai. Yes, Nidhi ma'am. Please make Jhalak host. Yes, Jhalak, you can share the screen now.
Yes, okay. Okay, so today our topic is opportunities for various types of audit, its eligibility criteria, and how to plan audit effectively. So today we are going to discuss various types of audit, their eligibility criteria, various objectives of audit, different types of audit opinions, standards on auditing, for basics of forensic audit, basics of information system audit, and basics of bank audits. So first, what is audit? What is the definition of audit? So audit is systematic as to whether it is following standards on auditing or not. Independent, it is independent of legally, financially, professionally, and personally independently. It is done. Examination of financial records. Financial records, it includes vouchers, records, legal documents, and other documents. Irrespective of legal form, it is eligible for all the types of entities, and it is whether the entity is whether profit oriented or not, whether it is commercial as well as charitable entity, both are covered. And to give opinion on financial statement, whether the financial statement gives true and fair view or not. So audit is a systematic independent examination of financial records irrespective of legal form, whether profit oriented, with objective to give opinion whether financial statements gives true and fair view or not. So what are the types of audit? Audit is basically, there are two major types of audit which are present in India. One is internal audit and the second is statutory audit. Statutory audit, further there are majorly two types of statutory audit which are existing in India. First is the tax audit and the second is the company audit. There are also other types of audits like forensic audit, system audit, bank audits, etc. So what is internal audit? The internal audit is usually conducted at the request of the internal management so that they can get a proper idea of all the financial functioning and efficiency. This audit can be done by an independent party or by an internal staff of the company. It is generally not mandatory. Internal audit management is doing for their own purpose. But Companies Act 2013 has a Rule 13 of Companies Rules 2014, which has made a mandatory requirement for carrying an internal audit for certain class of companies. So which are this class of companies? All the companies whose shares are registered on stock exchange, they are mandatorily required to get internal audit done. Second is unlisted companies. Certain classes of unlisted companies, unlisted public companies uh, who are having a paid up share capital of rupees 50 crore or more during the previous year, whose financial turnover is rupees 200 crore or more during the previous financial year, and are having outstanding loan or borrowed amount from public financial institute or banks above rupees 100 crore at any point of time during the previous financial year, and an outstanding deposit of rupees 25 crore or more at any point of time during the previous financial year. So if any of these four condition is getting fulfilled in unlisted public financial company, then they are required to get their internal audit required to be done, mandatory. For private companies, if their borrowing or loan from public financial institute or banks is exceeding rupees 100 crore at any point of time during previous financial year, or turnover of rupees 200 crore or more during the previous financial year, then they are required to get mandatorily internal audit done. Statutory audit. So what is statutory audit? Statutory audits take place to report the current state of a company's financials and account to the Indian government. These audits are mandated by the law to ensure the fair practice of accounts management. Statutory audits are performed by knowledgeable and qualified chartered accountants who work as external and independent parties. There are majorly three types of statutory audits existing in India: company audit, income tax audit, and GST audit. But as we all know, in Budget 2021, Section 35 and 44 of CGST Act has been amended and GST audit has been scrapped. So, company audit. Statutory audits are carried out every financial year from 1st April to 31st March. As per Companies Act 2013, every company are mandatorily required to get their books of accounts audited, irrespective of their turnover or capital. So in Companies Act, every company must get their books of account audited under company audit. Section 139 of Companies Act 2013 deals with the appointment of auditor. So according to Section 139, every company must appoint their auditor within 30 days from the incorporation of a company. So within 30 days, a board of directors must conduct a board meeting, and in board meeting, they must appoint their first auditor within 30 days from the incorporation of company. In case company board is failing to do so, then they must inform the shareholders of the company, and within 90 days, they must call extraordinary general meeting, and in EGM, shareholders are appointing their first auditor. First auditor shall hold office up to the end of the first annual general meeting of the company. So, first AGM of the company must be conducted within 9 months from the closing of first financial year. So, up to first AGM, the first auditor will continue to hold office, and all the next auditors will be appointed in the annual general meeting of the company by the shareholders. In case of casual vacancy, company must hold a extraordinary general meeting, and in EGM of shareholders, In EGM of shareholders, all shareholders appoint auditor in place of going auditor, resigning auditor. As per section 142, remuneration of auditors is also fixed in annual general meeting. So time limit for completion of company audit. Up to what time auditor must give their audit report. So auditor's report is to be given before conducting annual general meeting. So when AGM is to be held, every company must hold AGM within 6 months from the end of financial year. For conducting AGM, 21 days notice is to be given to shareholders, and the notice of AGM must accompany director's report and auditor's report. So audit must be completed before sending notice of AGM. So before 21 days of AGM, audit must be completed. Rotation of auditors. In Companies Act, there is a provision of rotation of auditors. Certain class or classes of company are mandatorily required to keep rotating their auditors. So what is a rotation? Uh, an auditor or auditor's firm is appointed for one term or a two term of 5 years. After that, they must vacate an office and new auditor must be appointed in place of old auditor. What are this class of companies to whom this rotation is applicable? All the listed companies, all unlisted companies having paid up share capital of rupees 10 crore or more, all private limited companies having paid up share capital of rupees 50 crore or more, all unlisted public companies and private companies having loans and borrowings from banks, financial institute, or public deposit of rupees 50 crore or more. All these classes or companies are required to follow rotation of auditors. In case of a firm of chartered accountant or an individual, if it is an individual or a proprietorship firm, a chartered accountant cannot be appointed in this classes of company for more than one term of 5 years. Whereas a firm, whether it is a partnership firm or LLP, firm of chartered accountants cannot be appointed for more than two consecutive terms of 5 years. Next is a tax audit. Next major type of statutory audit is tax audit. So what is tax audit? As per Finance Bill 2020, Section 44AB of Income Tax Act 1961, it deals with the tax audit requirement. What are the requirement? Who are mandatorily required to do tax audit done? 44AB deals with that. There are 5 subsections of 44 section 44AB, 44AB-A, 44AB-B, 44AB-C, 44AB-D, and 44AB-E. So first we'll see what is there in section 44AB-A. So this is what is requirement as per Finance Bill 2020. Every year in Finance Bill, mandatory requirement keeps on amended, keeps on changing. So this is as per Finance Bill 2020, which we need to follow for auditing books of accounts of financial year 2021. So what is what are the mandatory requirement under 44 ABA? So all the businesses having turnover of more than 5 crore are mandatorily required to get their books of account audited. In case a turnover is less than or equal to 5 crore, then we need to check whether the total cash receipt of divided by total cash receipt is 5% or more, or cash payments to total cash payment ratio is 5% or more. In case company is receiving or paying cash more than 5% of total receipt or payment, then we need to see the first requirement. In case total cash receipt or payment is less than 5%, they are not required to get their books of account audited. In case cash receipt or payment is more than 5% of total receipt or payment, then we need to check whether it is a company or individual HUF or firm. In case it is a company and its turnover is more than 1 crore, then yes, mandatorily they are required to get their books of account audited. If the turnover is less than or equal to 1 crore, then they are not required to do. In case of individual HUF or firm, if the turnover is more than 2 crore, then they are required to get their books of account audited. In case the turnover is less than 2 crore, they are not required to do tax audit under section 44AB(a). So the next section is 44AB(b). It is applicable for professionals. So for professionals, if total gross receipt exceeds rupees 50 lakh, then they are mandatorily required to get their books of account audited under section 44AB(b). 44ABC. So certain assessors who are eligible to show deemed profit under section 44AE, 44BB or 44BBB, in case they are showing profit lesser than the deemed profit required to be shown under the relevant section, then they are mandatorily get the books of account audited under section 44ABC. For professionals, if the turnover is less than 50 lakh and they are showing profit less than 50% of their gross receipt, then as per section 44ABD, they are mandatorily required to get their books of account audited. 44ABE, in case of individual HUF or firm carrying on business, and if assessee is showing profit less than 8% of his cash or credit turnover or less than 6% of his digital turnover, which is requirement as per section 44AD, then assessee is required to get their books of accounts audited under section 44ABE. And if income of this for this section, income of assessee must exceed minimum limit not chargeable. So in case assessee's total income is less than income chargeable to tax, then he is not required to get its book done. Even if it's showing profit less than 8%, 6%, or even if it is showing loss. Okay, I hope this mandatory requirements are clear to all of you. So penalties for non-filing of tax audit report or delay in filing of tax audit report. In case assessee fails to file a tax audit report within a due date, within a time limit, then he must pay penalty of 1,50,000 or 0.5% of the total turnover, whichever is less. Eligibility criteria. So under Income Tax Act, it does not said about who are eligible to do tax audit. It is saying who are not eligible to be a tax auditor. So section 44AB says who cannot be a tax auditor in a company. So first, any member in a part-time practice is not eligible to perform tax audit. A tax auditor must be a full-time practicing chartered accountant. A chartered accountant cannot audit the accounts of a person to whom he is indebted for more than rupees 10,000. A statutory auditor will be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he or she accepts the appointment of public sector undertaking or government company, listed company, or other public company having turnover of 50 crore or more in a year, and accepts any other work, assignment, or service in regard to the same undertaking on a remuneration which in total exceeds the fee payable for carrying out the statutory audit. So statutory audit से ज़्यादा fee लेके कोई और काम कर रहे, then you are not eligible to do tax audit. Fourth, A chartered accountant who is assigned with the task of writing and maintaining the books of accounts are not eligible. Fifth, audit of accounts of a firm of chartered accountant cannot be performed by partner or employee belonging to such firm. Sixth, internal auditor cannot be a statutory auditor or tax auditor. Seventh, as per amended chapter 6 of Council General Guidelines 2008, an auditor cannot accept more than 60 tax audit assignments in a particular financial year. So now we'll discuss the eligibility criteria as defined in Companies Act. Who can be a company's auditor? So Section 141 of Companies Act deals with eligibility criteria of company audit. A person shall be eligible for appointment as an auditor of a company only if he is a chartered accountant in practice. Where a firm is appointed as an auditor of a company, only the partner who are CA in practice shall be authorized by the firm to act and sign on behalf of the firm. There are certain people who cannot be an auditor, who cannot be appointed as an auditor, namely a body corporate. A company cannot be a company auditor. An officer or employee of the company. A person who is a partner or who is in employment of an officer or an employee of the company. Fourth, a person who or his relative or partner is holding any security of the company or its subsidiary or of its holding or associate company or a subsidiary of such holding company of value in terms of such percentage as may be prescribed, or is indebted to the company or its subsidiary or its holding or associate company or a subsidiary of such holding company, or has given a guarantee or provided any security in connection with the indebtedness of any third person to the company or its subsidiary or its holding or associate. Fifth, a person or a firm who has a business relationship with a company or its subsidiary or its holding or associate or subsidiary of such holding company or associate company of such nature as may be prescribed. Sixth one, a person whose relative is in employment of such company as a director or a key managerial person. So the relative of a director or a key KMP cannot be a company auditor. Seventh, a person who is in full-time employment somewhere elsewhere, or a person or a partner of a firm holding appointment as its auditor. If such persons or partner is at the date of such appointment or reappointment holding appointment as auditor of more than 20 companies other than the one person company, dormant companies or small companies, and private companies having paid up share capital of less than rupees 100 crore rupees. A person who has been convicted by a court of an offense involving fraud and a period of 10 years has not elapsed from the date of such conviction cannot be a company auditor. And the last one, a person who directly or indirectly renders any service referred to in section 144 to the company or its holding company or its subsidiary company. Where a person appointed as an auditor of a company incurs any of this disqualification mentioned in subsection 3 above, after his appointment shall vacate office as an auditor, and such vacations shall be deemed to be a casual vacancy in the office of the auditor. So at any point of time of during his appointment, an auditor occurs any of this disqualification, then he must give resignation and he must vacate office. So what are the major objectives of audit? There are majorly we can say that audit is to be done with the mindset that accuracy of books of accounts are checked, whether they are accuracy, consistency, cost management, efficiency, error and fraud detection, and achievement. Like accuracy, books of account, whether showing accurate results or not. Consistency, they are consistent with the company's goal or not. cost management, whether they are drafted or the activities are incurred with the, whether the cost management is kept in mind or not, whether the efficiency is achieved or not, any fraud or detection error is not there in the books of account, and achievement, whether the targeted activity or goal are activities are carried out with the goal of achieving this goal or of business activity. Types of opinion. The conclusion of any audit is a opinion. So opinions are basically, there are 4 types of opinions: unqualified opinion, qualified opinion, disclaimer of opinion, and adverse opinion. First is unqualified opinion. We also call it as a clean opinion. So when an independent auditor concludes that a financial record or statements are presented fair and appropriate in accordance with the financial reporting framework, the judgment is called an unqualified opinion. So an unqualified opinion generally indicates that generally accepted accounting policies, principles are consistently applied in the preparation of financial statements. Financial statements comply with the relevant statutory audit requirements and regulations. There is adequate amount of disclosure of all material matters relevant to the proper presentation of financial information. And if there are any changes in accounting principles or in the application method, then it has been properly checked and determined in the financial statement of the company. So if these 4 things are being fulfilled, unqualified opinion is issued by an auditor. Second, it is qualified opinion. So what is qualified opinion? An auditor expresses a qualified opinion when, according to him or her, the financial statements of the company as a whole are not free from the material misstatements. And the misstatements are material but not pervasive in nature. The effect of misstatement is material when information with such misstatement can affect the decisions of the users of the financial statements. The effect of misstatement is pervasive when such misstatement is not confined to one element, account, or item of financial statement and reflects the widespread effect of misstatement. Pervasive effects on the financial statements are those that in the auditor's judgment are not confined to specific element, account, or item of the financial statements. If so confined, represent or could represent a substantial proportion of the financial statements, or in relation to disclosures are fundamental to users' understanding of the financial statements. In this case, qualified opinion is issued. Third is disclaimer of opinion. A disclaimer of opinion is expressed when the possible effect of a limitation on scope is material and pervasive to the extent that the auditor is unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. When auditor is unable to carry his audit, is not able to gather sufficient evidence, then he must give a disclaimer of opinion. As a result, the auditor is unable to express an opinion of the financial statement, then he must issue disclaimer of opinion. The last one is adverse opinion. An adverse opinion is generally issued when there are limitations on the scope of auditor, and there is a disagreement with the management regarding acceptance of the accounting policies, method of their application, and adequacy of financial disclosures. When auditor expresses an adverse opinion, a clear description of all the substantive reasons is included in the audit report. Okay. So standards on auditing. The next session is on the standards on auditing. So I am covering just a basic of what is standards of auditing and what basics of it. So Auditing and Assurance Standard Board has formulated few standards to be followed by all the chartered accountants. If not followed, a CA can be held guilty of professional misconduct under Chartered Accountants Act 1949. Also, as per Section 143(2) of the Companies Act 2013, every auditor must comply with standards on auditing. So, the standards issued by Auditing and Assurance Standard Board includes majorly 5 types of standards are there. Standards on quality control, standards on auditing, standards on review engagements, standards on assurance engagements, and standards on related services. Standards on quality control, they are to be followed by firms that performs review and audit of historical financial information and other assurance related service engagements. Second is standards on auditing. They are to be followed while auditing historical financial information. Third is standards on review engagements. They are to be followed while reviewing historical financial information. Second is auditing historical financial information, and the third is review of historical financial information. Fourth is standards on assurance engagement. They are to be followed when or doing audit of historical information other than historical financial information. And the standards on related services. They are to be followed while performing engagement uh, to apply agreed upon procedures and other related service engagements, such as compilation agreements. So there are also other types of audit like forensic audit, information system audit, and a bank audit. So we will discuss basics of all 3 types of audit. First is a forensic audit. So what is forensic audit? Forensic audit is examination of documents and interviewing of people to extract evidence. Forensic accounting examines individual or a company financial records as an investigative measure that attempt to derive evidence suitable for use in litigation. So, financial forensic audit basically includes examination and interviewing to extract the evidences for the use in the court of law. Court of law. Purpose of doing a carrying out forensic audit can be to in order to prosecute a party for fraud, embezzlement, or other financial claims. In addition, an audit may be conducted to determine negligence. So forensic audits are conducted to determine fraud, embezzlement, or negligence. How forensic audit is different than a generic audit. A general public believes that a financial auditor would detect a fraud if one were being perpetrated during the financial auditor's audit. The truth, however, is that the procedures for financial audits are designed to detect material misstatements and not immaterial frauds. So, a financial audit cannot be done with the mindset to discover a fraud. While it is true that many of the financial statements and fraud could have, perhaps should have been detected by financial auditors, the vast majority of frauds could not be detected with the use of financial audits. Reasons include the dependence of financial auditors on a sample and the auditor's reliance on examining the audit trails versus examining the events and activities behind the documents. So the the latter is simply resource prohibitive in terms of costs and time. There are some basic differences between the procedures followed by a forensic auditor and a financial auditor. Forensic audit is always in response to an event. It is always called as a financial investigation, and findings of an forensic audit are used as an evidence in a court of law or to resolve disputes. Whereas in financial audit, it is mandatorily required to be done. The measure it measures compliance with the reporting standard, or we can say standards or auditing, to obtain reasonable assurance that financial statements are free of material misstatements. So these are the basic difference between forensic account and auditing, financial audit. In practice, there are also different mindset between a forensic auditor and a financial auditor. So forensic audit is done with the investigative mentality, whereas a financial audit is done with the professional skepticism. A forensic accountant will often require more extensive corroboration. A forensic accountant may focus more on seemingly immaterial transactions. It is always called that forensic audit is beyond documents. So it must uncover the frauds which are not even there in a documentation. A forensic accountant will often look for indications of fraud that are not subject to the scope of a financial statement audit. The next we will discuss the basics of information system audit. So what is the information system audit? Or say information technology audit. It is an examination of the controls within an information technology infrastructure. An IS audit is the process of collecting and evaluating the evidence of an organization's information systems, practices, and operations. The evaluation of obtained evidence determines if the IS information systems are safeguarding assets, maintaining integrity, and operating effectively and efficiently to achieve the organization's goals and targets. These reviews may be performed in conjunction with financial statement audit or internal audit or other types of attestation engagements. The role of IS auditor has become critical mechanism for ensuring the integrity of information and the reporting of organizations' finances. To avoid and hopefully prevent future financial fiascos such as Satyam in recent years, electronic infrastructure and commerce are integrated in business processes around the globe. There is a need to control and audit using IS to avoid such kind of scam in near future. IS auditing, formerly known as EDP audit, electronic data processing audit, or computer information systems and IT auditing, involved as an extension of traditional audit. So the next is basic types of bank audits. There are different bank audits where what we chartered accountants are carrying out. First is a statutory audit. Every year, statutory audit of the branches is conducted depending on the category of branch, and there is a central auditor who is conducting banks audit and certify banks balance sheet. Concurrent audit. Concurrent audit, or sometimes called as risk-based internal audit, is carried out by chartered accountant firms to check the day-to-day transactions of a bank, and is reporting of concurrent audit is to be done on a monthly basis. Credit audit. Whenever a new credit account is sanctioned, credit audit is to be done in case limit is beyond certain limits like 1 crore or 10 crore, differently based on the different types of CC limits or credit limits. The basic purpose of this audit is to ensure compliance of terms of sanction, creation of security, and proper documentation. So credit audits banks are getting done on a customer basis. Each customer, for every customer, different credit audits are to be done by different chartered accountants. Stock audit. In case of CC limits, stock audits are to be done. The basic purpose is to check diversion of funds, availability of security, and documentation. System audit. This is an audit of system or technology. and these are conducted either by an internal staff or by an external chartered accountant. Revenue audit. Once in a year, banks are getting their branch revenue audit conducted to check their income and expenditure. Generally, revenue audits are conducted to discover revenue leakages in a branch, and it is generally conducted by a CA firm. Forensic audit. In case of fraud or in case of a major account which is going to be slipped into a non-performing asset, banks are engaging specialized firms to find out the end use of money or to check that there is no diversion of fund. Forex audit. Bank branches which are dealing in foreign exchange are getting their forex audit done. This is also mostly part of a regular concurrent audits. So these are the major types of bank audits. Now we'll see who are eligible to do this bank audits. So for carrying out a bank audit, a CA must be in a full-time practice. CA or a firm of a chartered accountant must be on a panel of a multi-purpose empanelment form, MEF, which is MEF panel is hosted by a ICAI on a yearly basis. Any individual or a firm of a chartered accountant can be part of this MEF panel. Individual or firm must have been registered with the RBI. Proprietor or partner must any proprietor or partner of a firm must have completed a certificate course on concurrent audit of banks, which is conducted by ICI on a regular basis. Preferably, one partner or a proprietor of a firm must hold either a DISA or a CISA degree. So this is all for the session. So now I would request if anyone is having any query, then we can take up that. Check the chat box. See, Anju Bhatt has asked if the criteria for tax audit under Finance Bill 2021. Finance Bill 2021 has criteria very similar to Finance Bill 2020, with a smaller change that in Finance Bill 2020, the tax audit limit of rupees 5 crore has been increased to rupees 10 crore. All other criteria are similar. Yes, Sonal Jain has asked, in case of professional turnover is greater than 50 lakh and profit is shown as less than 50%, then he's liable to deduct TDS or not? So no, in case turnover is less than the turnover eligible for tax audit, then firm is not required to deduct TDS, because under section 194J or 194I, requirement is that the turnover exceeds the minimum turnover eligible to do tax audit done. So even though he is going for tax audit under section 44 AB D, still he is not required to deduct TDS under section 194J or 194I. Komal Sampad has asked that due date for AY 2021 is extended for ITR. Can we file audit report for 2021 now? So no, only the due dates for IT returns has been extended. You cannot file audit report now. is all for the day. Okay, I'm also sharing this PPT in this chat box. You can all download this and save it in your PC. So I've shared PPT of this today's session in chat box. You can all download it. I'm also sharing my contact details for any queries. So any further more queries? So Nisha, can we end the session if there is someone who is saying, can you share PPT again? Okay, I'm sharing it again. I hope now you have saved and you have received this PPT of the session. So I think that is it for the day. Can we end the session now? If I think there are no more questions now. And in case of the PPT I have shared in this chat box, and again, this can be circulated in this WhatsApp group if anyone is required. Anyone required, you can also message me on my mobile number I have shared. You can WhatsApp me. I'll share the PPT of the session. Okay, so CA Hinal, over to you. We can conclude the session with a vote of thanks. Thank you.
Good session, and we would ensure forwarding the PPTs to all the participants over here, along with, as CA Jalak mentioned, she can even personally forward to any participant that would require. And I, on behalf of Ahmedabad branch and WMAC, heartily thank CA Jalak for sparing her valuable time in giving us the inputs about the topic. We really look forward for taking more sessions from you, ma'am. Once again, we thank you very much on behalf of Ahmedabad branch at WMAC.
Thank you so much.
We will have a next session beginning at 2:30. Maybe meanwhile, we can all leave the meeting now and rejoin again at 2:30.